How concerned should we be about the TCU offensive line? We look at some pro football focus grades next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also free and available wherever it is you get your podcast. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Quickly, want to get some housekeeping out of the way. Somebody gave me some very good and constructive criticism on a podcast review recently. They said they liked the show, but when I've been sick for like 3 weeks. So I should probably go to the doctor or something. Anyway, he was like, background noise. Like I had issues with my sinuses. You could hear me sniffling. So I listened back to it and I was like, yikes. I apologize to the audio audience for enduring that and to the YouTube audience as well. So I'm trying out this USB microphone today, but I've had issues in the past with it cutting out. So please let me know. How is the audio? If this is also bad, then I'll just keep working until we get it sorted. But anyway, all that to say, thank you for giving me feedback. You can always do that in the YouTube comments, podcast reviews, tweet at me. Okay, let's get to the show. So TCU is 2-0. They beat Long Island 45-0 on Saturday night. Overall looked good. Offense was somewhat inconsistent, but especially in the second quarter, did a nice job. Josh Hoover once again looked very efficient, very confident, especially in the short passing game. A lot of the quick game concepts, he's excelling. Are those easy throws to make? Some of them are, yes, but he's still hitting them. He's still staying within himself, taking what the defense gives him. Running the ball was an adventure. Now, Long Island was bringing a lot of pressure. They were stocking the box. And one thing about running from spread concepts is you're typically going to be somewhat outnumbered in the run game. I mean, just in general in football, you are going to be from an offensive standpoint. But if you can't force teams into a light box, then you're going to have issues getting everybody blocked. Now, one way that Kendall Briles has offset that in the past is by using the quarterback in the run game. That helps him even up the numbers. With Josh Hoover, they haven't done that because Josh is not a super mobile guy. I mean, he's got some mobility, but that's not his biggest strength. So I think part of why you were seeing so much screen, short stop routes, hook routes, is because they're trying to make up for some of the issues they've had in the run game. In a minute, we'll get to, okay, is this a problem that we should be super concerned about? Or is this just something that early in the year teams have made a commitment to stopping the run, sacking the box, and we're going to get different looks throughout the season? It's just about kind of taking what the defense gives you. Defensively, I thought they were outstanding. I mean, the shutout, Long Island, obviously. Long Island, that was not a team with a lot of juice at the skill positions. Greenwood, their Wildcat quarterback, he could run a little bit. Other than that, I didn't really see guys that were going to threaten this TCU defense athletically. But all that being said, they never really lost focus. They were good on third down. They were good on fourth down a couple of times that Long Island went for it. They once again were very physical. The tackling was outstanding. Another week where you didn't see guys getting 6 or 7 yards after contact. It was one guy was getting them down, or there were a wave of defenders getting to the football. I was impressed with some of the young guys. Max Carroll, he had a sack or a tackle for loss late in the ball game. I was like, oh, cool, Max Carroll getting involved. That's awesome. And I looked at the stat sheet. He actually ended up with like 6 tackles. So he was involved in that game really throughout. I didn't notice him a ton until the fourth quarter, but he made some plays. Richard Toney Jr. had to step in at safety to replace Bud Clark because Bud was sick, and didn't see a drop-off there. I think that safety position is very deep. Corners, once again, did a nice job. JT Broughton and Lamarian James have been really good through the first 2 weeks of the season. Linebacking crew was solid. Caleb Alarms-Orr was more involved, and he made a big impact, getting sideline to sideline, getting after guys, being physical. And Johnny Hodges, I'm excited. I'm happy for him. Like, it's cool to see somebody who had a tough year bounce back in a new scheme and get it done. Didn't see the consistent and constant pressure that we did in week one, but I think a lot of that was, okay, we don't have to bring the house today. Like, we can get efficient pressure with our normal 4 to 5 guys and still be solid in the back end. And it's not imperative that we show Long Island a ton of different looks. Big test coming this week now with UCF. But I want to get to offensive line play because that was my big concern after the ball game. Post-game show is up on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. It's live. It's right after the game. So it's emotional. It's raw. And Jacob Sailors, who's part of the Lipton Drinking Club, and they also have a really good TCU-centric podcast. They're great on all sports, but especially baseball. And he mentioned in the chat during the show, he was like, you don't have to have a dominant offensive line at this level. Most college teams don't. And he's right. With the exception of some elite SEC teams, and I think Kansas State fell in this group the last couple of years. I don't know. I haven't watched them enough this year to comment on it. But most teams, O-line play is hard, right? It's hard to develop big guys that are athletic and physical enough to consistently be good and to find 5 players that you trust. So I would agree with that. I don't think it's imperative that you have an elite offensive line. I will say, only averaging like 3.5 yards per carry against Long Island, that's a concern to me. Now, there were a couple factors that played into that. I think Long Island was bringing a lot of pressure in the run game, as I said at the start of the show. Some other people mentioned that it was a pretty vanilla scheme on both sides of the ball. Kendall Briles was not looking to show a lot of tape this week. They kind of just did their thing, took care of their business, won big, got out of there healthy, which they did for the most part. I mean, there were no injuries that I could think of aside from Jordan Bailey going down with some sort of issue on a jet sweep, which stinks because he, made a big play when he was running the football there. But main key was win the ball game, get out of there healthy, and get ready for UCF. I was looking at the Pro Football Focus grades, though, for run blocking and pass blocking. So Bless Harris he graded out at 84.9 in pass blocking. Ben Taylor Whitfield was 83.4. Bless and Ben were switching reps at left tackle, switching series. Remington Strickland, 83.4 at pass blocking. Colton Deary, 82%. James Brockermeyer, 82%. Robbie Rochester, 76%. Mike Nichols, 76%. So, these grades are up to 100. You get what I mean. Pass blocking was solid. And if you watch the game the last couple weeks, everybody would agree their offensive line has been really good at blocking in the pass game. Some of that is helped by a lot of the quick game concepts that they're running. Ball's getting out fast. It's a lot of RPO stuff. But when they have had traditional dropbacks, they've given Josh time. There hasn't really been many snaps so far where he's been under duress, which is good because last year teams figured out, and I think we'll see some of this more as the year goes on, the way teams attacked TCU's defense last season once Josh Hoover took over. Bring heat, like bring pressure, force him to get rid of the football, force him to move off his spot and make throws. And TCU's done a good job so far this year of keeping the pocket clean. Run blocking grades, very different story. Bless Harris at 46.8. Ben Taylor Whitfield at 38.6, excuse me. Remington Strickland, 66. Colton Deary, 63. James Brockermeyer, 60. Robbie Rochester, 59. Mike Nichols, 70. So it wasn't just, they were bringing extra pressure, but also on the individual blocks themselves, guys were getting beat. Now, there's a couple things that I'm wondering about here. One is, how much longer are we going to do the rotations? Now, Sonny Dykes said after the Stanford game, maybe it was a Tuesday. I can't remember if it was the post game of the Stanford game or the Tuesday. He said that they plan on giving Colton Deary rest when they can because they think he plays better when he's got some limited snaps. And they feel like Remington Strickland can come in and, do a good job and spell him. And so I could see that being the way they move forward. The Whitfield and Harris situation is intriguing to me because I think you want to get to a point where your best 5 guys are on the field so that they can get communication down, so they can get cohesion down. So I wonder how much longer that goes. Both guys struggled in the run game. Both were really solid in the pass game. Harris is more experienced. Whitfield, if you can get him to a place where he's playing a lot of snaps, though, that could really benefit your future because he's going to be around for a while. This is kind of a one-and-done thing from Bless Harris. So I wonder how they handle that. But I think the O-line can get better. Now, in the offseason, they went and got a lot of guys in the transfer portal that graded out a lot better at pass blocking than run blocking. And I mean, I just say in general, like I think pass blocking is easier than run blocking to a certain extent, depending on, I guess, which rushers are coming at you and how much pressure the defense is bringing. But my big concern is I just didn't feel like there were a lot of I don't feel like there's been a lot of plays in the last 2 weeks where the O-line's gotten good push. There have been times where they got a hat on a hat and allowed Cam Cook to cut back, but blowing guys off the ball, moving them back, creating run lanes, that hasn't been there. Now, another factor here is Sonny Dykes said in both weeks so far this year, TCU has come out and the defense has thrown a completely different defensive front at them than they expect. So whatever they thought was going to happen, with the D-line and linebackers, it's been different when they get on the field. And so they've had to adjust during the game. And, I mean, that changes all your communication, all your rules as a blocker. Like, okay, who am I letting free? Who am I going to get? Like, what's my first priority? So that's odd to me. Like, I don't have a great explanation for it. I hope it's not an issue of preparation. I hope it's just a couple teams that feel like they have a big talent disparity against TCU and they're trying to use the element of surprise to, match up better and dispel some of those issues. But this week is going to tell us a lot about this football team. UCF is 2-0 as well. They beat Sam Houston. They beat New Hampshire handily. And they can run the ball. And we'll get into that here in a minute. They can run the ball with KJ Jefferson. They can run the ball with RJ Harvey. So it's going to be a big test for this defense. And offensively, can you be efficient and solid on offense to go score for score with this team? We'll talk about that next in a wide open Big 12. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team. 5-hour energy. You've known about it for years. You always see it in the grocery store, at the gas station. Did you know you can order 5-hour energy online? Right now, if you go to their website, you can put together flavors. They have all kinds of flavors. Watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. You can put together a 12-pack, a 24-pack. Listen, I'm in a season right now where I'm staying up late. I don't love it, but it's what you have to do as an adult. You have to do these things. My doctor says I'm sleep deprived. I think everybody in America is sleep deprived. I can't say that for a fact, but you get what I mean. It's hard to get 8 hours of sleep a night. And even if you do, you can still feel groggy. You get to about 2 in the afternoon, and you need something to get through the rest of the day. You got to go pick up your kids, get dinner ready, all those things. Grab a 5-hour energy. It's natural. It's they don't have all these additives and crazy things that other energy drinks have in them. You can get it at the store, but you can also order it online. Use the code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Again, that's LOCKEDONCFB to get 20% off your order. 5-hour energy, proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. It was a crazy weekend in the Big 12. A lot of the contenders, I'll use contenders in quotes because we don't always know, but teams that we think could win the conference had rough weekends. Kansas lost to Illinois, which was surprising. KU with Jalen Daniels and other weapons on offense felt like they were a team that could win a championship. I will say, I don't know how many people noticed that their play caller went to Penn State in the offseason and that Jeff Grimes took over, but that was a big change. And even with Jalen Daniels as being as electric as he is and was, Jason Bean thrived in that offense too. And I think Jason's also a talented guy. I believe he made an NFL roster. But you get what I mean. Like, the system was really good. And it was predicated on a misdirection and confusing offenses. And there were so many times in the last few years where they just had guys running free. It's going to be an adjustment. And they play UNLV this weekend, which is a solid team. UNLV beat Houston, and then they won like their FCS game this week. But KU goes down. Kansas State ended up winning, but they were in a dogfight with Tulane. Arizona had issues with Northern Arizona. They ended up winning the ball game, but I think Northern Arizona had the lead going into halftime. Washington State destroyed Texas Tech. I don't know what's going on with Joey McGuire and company. I know Tech fans are down bad right now. Like, they're playing North Texas this week. And I saw Tech fans talking Sunday about how they feel like their team's going to lose, which I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. Chandler Morris, UNC quarterback. But UNC was having issues with Stephen F. Austin this weekend. I don't feel like they're going to beat Tech, but you get the picture. Texas Tech barely escaped with a victory over ACU. And they go to Pullman and you get destroyed by Washington State. Not a lot of confidence there. And Tech's not a team that I would say was a contender before the year started, but, just another example of it's been rough going for Big 12 teams so far. Utah looked good against Baylor. Cam Rising, though, got hurt, so we'll see what his prognosis is moving forward. Bottom line, it was a weekend where it looked like, okay, maybe this league is just wide open. And we talked about before the season, it was already going to be a league with a lot of parity. That's going to be the selling point for the Big 12 moving forward. If you want to watch fun football every weekend where you don't know what's going to happen, then watch the Big 12. That's how they're going to market themselves. I think this week is huge because both UCF and TCU are teams that are sort of dark horses, that have good athletes, that have things about their programs right now that are really solid, also have, some issues that they're trying to work out. And so whoever wins on Saturday takes a big step forward in kind of controlling their destiny throughout the rest of the schedule. So what has UCF done so far? So they beat Sam Houston State 45-14. They also beat New Hampshire 57-3. KJ Jefferson is their new quarterback, if you didn't know that. Came over from Arkansas. They have run the ball 111 times, and they have thrown the ball 39 times so far this year. They are lining up and running the football. And it's been, KJ Jefferson has 20 carries on the year for, let's see, how many yards does he have? 89 yards. But RJ Harvey is their workhorse back. 30 carries for 268 yards. And we saw Ashton Daniels. He was giving TCU fits by making plays outside the pocket, making plays off schedule. That's the KJ Jefferson playbook as well. TCU's going to have to force this team to throw the football. And Andy Avalos has to find a way to put pressure. He has to find a way to put pressure on KJ, and then the players have to find a way to stay disciplined when they bring that pressure so that they can stay in their rush lanes and keep contained and not allow him to get outside the pocket and get things happening with his legs. Offensively, I don't really know how good this UCF defense is because they haven't been challenged yet. But need to run the football better. O-line has to continue to hold up in the pass game. And then, okay, let's get a look at what this playbook really is. If it's going to be a lot of, short throws to supplement the run game and then the occasional deep shot, I think that's fine. But I do wonder, as you start playing better teams and as you get deeper in the schedule, how much more do you push the envelope throwing the ball down the field? How many more opportunities do you give your guys on the outside to make plays? I'm also wondering, when does Drake Dabney get more involved? Because I think he's a talented guy. I feel like he can be a force at the tight end position, and they haven't really targeted him yet. So getting him more acclimated to this offense and getting him more targets could be a huge key moving forward. Student section was great on Saturday night. I heard they had 6,100 kids there, which is outstanding. Should be a good atmosphere at home. I'm glad it's a home game. And, yeah, a good chance to take a big step forward. If you win this ball game, then you're looking at a chance. You got a chance to be 4-0 when you roll into Arrowhead Stadium to take on Kansas in a couple weeks. And that would be good. I mean, that would be really good for this team. So big week ahead. We'll preview UCF. We'll try to get some guests on to talk about them more as we get closer to the game. We'll get back and wrap things up. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Okay, it's hard to generalize when you're talking to an audience, but I feel like everything that something that we all do is we all spend a lot, or we have to buy a lot of things. We just do. It's part of it. So why not try Ibotta? They will give you cash back for your spending. It's a free app where you can earn cash back every time you shop, earn on hundreds of items from groceries, beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw from your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE when you register. Go to the App Store or Google Play and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. All right, TCU is 2-0. Some of you had reactions to the post-game show. Jim Norris says the defense is just so much better so far. Yeah, you can really tell it's different. Now, I don't know. We might see some – we're going to see some rough weeks this year. Like, it's just in the grand scheme of things, in the schedule, there's going to be ups and downs. And we'll see offenses that have more firepower. Honestly, Stanford and LIU might be the two most anemic offenses that TCU plays this year. We'll see if one of the bottom feeder Big 12 teams is similar. But the energy, the effort, and just the fundamentals of it. It's not just the scheme. Like, the scheme itself helps. But you can have a good scheme and a better strategy. And if you're not making the fundamental plays, then it doesn't really matter. And last season, there was a scheme issue, but also you just had guys running free. There were busted coverages. There were missed tackles. So that's gotten cleaned up. So it's really been twofold so far, which is encouraging. And they look super confident. I mean, there really hasn't been, like, I expected some coverage bust, just your typical, like, hey, we're learning a new defense. There are challenges to it. When it's live and real, it's going to be different than what you do in practice. So you're going to have some hiccups. But from that standpoint, I haven't really seen any issues through the first couple of weeks, which is cool. And I think Andy Avalos is a really good coach. And I feel like Sonny Dykes, I mean, that was a sharp hire. Like, it's one thing to make a move for the sake of making a move, but to go get somebody who can elevate the ceiling of your program, that's impressive. Savannah says it's going to be another thing altogether with the UCF's rushing game, literally the best in the Big 12. The entire offense is geared around running the ball. QB can pass enough from keeping you from stacking the box, but the key has been the offensive line has been much improved. I'm guessing that's a UCF fan that's chiming in. Well, hey, good to hear from you. And yeah, UCF, it's going to be a different challenge this week. It is. I think UCF, it's also going to be a much bigger challenge when they're playing TCU than playing Sam Houston State, New Hampshire. But it'll be a fun week. I'm excited to hear from and learn from UCF fans because TCU didn't play them last year. Matt Clark also said the real test is this week. If you can tighten up in the red zone and force field goals, you can win that game. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more situational football for the defense this week where 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, can you get off the field against a good rushing attack? In the red zone, can you get off the field against a good rushing attack? That's going to be a challenge for this defense. And offensively, can you avoid the lulls? I think that's been the biggest thing for the past 2 years that's been frustrating with this offense. There are times where they look like a well-oiled machine, and there are times where they just look like they can't get a first down, and there's really no in between. And so can you find a way to bottle up what you did in the second quarter Saturday against LIU and maybe not be that good all the time, but just be more consistent in general? That would be very helpful for this TCU team. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. We got more episodes later this week. It's your team every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts.